Episode 46. A new chapter begins. Jimin POV, the talent show, had been an emotional roller coaster. But it had also solidified something within me. I had made my choice. Jikook was the person I wanted to be with. And I needed to stop feeling guilty about it. But as I walked into school that morning, I could feel the stares of my classmates. Some were curious, others judgmental. The whispers had already started. Student 1, did you see Jimin and Jikook after the show? Student 2, yes, they were totally acting like a couple. Student 3, but what about Taehyung? Isn't he still into Jimin? I sighed, gripping my books tighter as I approached my locker. Just as I reached for the lock, a hand landed on my shoulder.
Taehyung, hey. I turned, my heart skipping a beat. Taehyung stood there, his expression unreadable. After everything, I still wasn't sure where we stood. Jimin, hey, how are you? He leaned against the lockers, shoving his hands in his pockets. Taehyung, better. I've had time to think. And I want us to be okay, Jimin. His words caught me off guard, but relief washed over me.
Jimin, I want that too. He offered a small smile. And for the first time in a while, it felt like we were finally on the path to healing. Just then, I felt another presence behind me. Turning, I saw Jikook approaching, his eyes flickering between me and Taehyung. Jikook, everything okay? Taehyung gave him a nod, pushing off the lockers.
Taehyung, yeah, just clearing the air. There was a moment of silence before Taehyung clapped Jikook on the shoulder. Taehyung, take care of him, okay? Jikook met his gaze, determination clear in his eyes. Jikook always. And just like that, a weight lifted from my shoulders. Maybe things wouldn't be perfect, but for now, we were moving forward.
Episode 47. A date to remember. Jikook POV, after everything we had been through. I wanted to give Jimin a day where he didn't have to worry about anything. No gossip, no drama, just us. That's why I brought him to the amusement park. The second we walked in, his eyes lit up, and it made my heart swell. Jimin, I can't believe you did this. This is amazing. I smirked, slipping my hand into his.
Jikook, you deserve it. We spent the evening going on every ride, playing games, and eating way too much cotton candy. Jimin laughed so much that it made every second worth it. As the night wound down, we found ourselves on the Ferris wheel, the city lights stretching out below us. Jimin shivered slightly, and I instinctively wrapped an arm around him. Jikook, you cold? He shook his head, but I could feel the way he leaned into me.
Jimin, no, I feel happy. Like, really happy. I turned to look at him, the soft glow of the lights making him look even more breathtaking. Jikook, me too. I leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to his lips. In that moment, nothing else mattered. Just us. Episode 48. The rumors won't stop. Jimin POV, even though things had finally settled between me. Jikook and Taehyung, the school wasn't ready to let it go. The whispers followed me everywhere. Student 1, did you hear? Jimin was at the amusement park with Jikook. Student 2, I thought Taehyung still had feelings for him. Student 3, Jimin sure moves fast. I clenched my fists, my appetite completely gone. Just as I was about to stand up and leave, Jikook appeared beside me, setting down his tray.
Jikook, ignore them. I sighed, shaking my head. Jimin, it's easier said than done. His expression darkened as he scanned the room. Then, without warning, he reached for my hand and laced our fingers together right in front of everyone. The cafeteria went dead silent. Jikook, if they want something to talk about, let them talk. I don't care what they say. I only care about you. My heart pounded in my chest. But as I looked at him, I knew he meant it. And for the first time, I decided I didn't care either.
Episode 49. Taehyung's new focus. Taehyung POV watching Jimin and Jungkook together still hurt. But I had made peace with it. They belonged together, and I wasn't about to stand in the way of that. But that didn't mean I was going to sit around sulking. As I sat on the rooftop, staring up at the sky, I heard footsteps approaching. Looking up, I saw one of the girls from my class, Minji, hesitating at the door. Minji, Taehyung, do you mind if I sit with you? I blinked in surprise but nodded. Taehyung, sure. She sat beside me, pulling her knees to her chest. Minji, I know this is random, but I saw what you did for Jimin. The way you stepped back, even though you liked him. That was really brave. I let out a dry laugh. Taehyung, not sure if I'd call it brave. She shook her head. Minji, it was. And I think you deserve to be happy too. Something in her voice made me pause. When I turned to look at her, she was already looking at me. A small smile on her lips. For the first time in a long time, I felt something shift. Maybe my story wasn't over yet. Episode 50, A Promise for the Future. Jimin POV Jungkook, and I sat on the rooftop of my house, wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars. It had become our favorite spot to just talk. Jungkook, you know, I used to think love was complicated, that it had to be painful. I turned to look at him, my heart aching at his words. Jimin, but it doesn't have to be, right? He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from my face. Jungkook, not with you. With you. It feels right. I reached for his hand, intertwining our fingers. Jimin, then let's promise each other something. No matter what happens, no matter what people say, we face it together. His grip tightened around mine. His eyes filled with warmth. Jungkook, together. And with that promise, I knew that whatever the future held, we would be okay, because we had each other. Episode 51, The Unexpected Challenge. Jimin POV for the first time in a long while. I walked into school without worrying about what people thought. I had Jungkook by my side, and Taehyung and I were slowly healing. Things finally felt stable, but stability never lasted long. As I reached my locker, a girl I barely knew approached me. She had sharp eyes and an expression that immediately put me on edge. Girl, so it's true, you and Jungkook are dating. I frowned, not liking her tone. Jimin, yes, why? She scoffed, crossing her arms. Girl, I don't get it. What does he even see in you? Without your makeup, you're nothing special. The words stung more than I wanted to admit. But before I could respond, another voice cut through the air. Jungkook, excuse me. I turned to see him standing behind me, his expression dark with anger. The girl flinched, but tried to play it off. Girl, I was just saying the truth. Jungkook stepped closer, his presence towering. Jungkook, the truth? The truth is that Jimin is the most beautiful person I know, inside and out. And the fact that you think looks are the only thing that matters says more about you than it does about him. The girl paled, clearly not expecting him to defend me so fiercely. Without another word, she turned on her heel and stormed off. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Jimin, Jungkook, he cupped my cheek, his gaze softening. Jungkook, don't ever let people like that make you doubt yourself. Okay, you're perfect the way you are. My heart swelled, and I nodded, feeling more secure than ever. Episode 52, Taehyung's New Path. Taehyung POV, I strummed my guitar absent-mindedly, lost in thought. Ever since my conversation with Minji, something inside me had shifted. Maybe it was time to stop chasing something that wasn't meant for me and start focusing on myself. The door creaked open, and Minji stepped inside. Minji, you're always here, huh? I smirked, setting my guitar aside. Taehyung, it's my escape. She sat across from me, her gaze thoughtful. Minji, have you ever thought about writing music? I blinked. Taehyung. I mean, I write sometimes. But I never really thought about taking it seriously. She grinned. Minji, you should. I think you have something special. Her confidence in me was unexpected but strangely comforting. Taehyung, maybe I'll give it a shot. As I looked at her, I realized that for the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about Jimin. And that felt like a step in the right direction. Episode 53, A Future Together. Jimin POV Jungkook, and I sat under the stars, wrapped in the warmth of each other's presence. It had become our tradition, a quiet place where we could just be. Jungkook, you're graduating soon. I nodded, staring up at the night sky. Jimin, yeah, it's kind of scary. He reached for my hand, intertwining our fingers. Jungkook, you'll do amazing. Jimin, and no matter where you go, I'll be right here. I turned to face him, my heart swelling with emotion. Jimin, I don't want to leave you behind. He smiled, squeezing my hand. Jungkook, then don't. We'll figure things out together. I leaned my head against his shoulder, letting out a content sigh. Jimin, together. And as I sat there, with Jungkook's arms around me and the stars above, I knew that no matter what came next, we would always find our way back to each other.